Hi guys, welcome back. You're listening to Radio Taiwan International, and this is Geek Out. I'm your host, Michelle Chang. What's your cup of tea? What tickles your fancy? Or what floats your boat? Join us as we share passions from people in Taiwan and around the world. Today, with me in the studio is our international news broadcasting team's Itamar.
Wow. Hello, world.
Right? Itamar Waksman is with us today, and we're going to be geeking out about one of my very favorite subjects, food.
Yes.
Best. What did you have for lunch today?
Well, I had a khichdi, which is, you know khichdi?
I actually don't, so please explain.
Khichdi is it's like an Indian dish. It's like a type of porridge that's made out of rice and usually mung bean.
Oh, okay. So for those listeners who don't know what mung bean is, it's usually used in Taiwanese food as
A sweet.
right.
And whole as well. Mm-hmm. But in like South Asia, they tend to use it like without its peel.
Right, and they grind it fine.
Sometimes.
Okay,
Actually, they just cook it like peeled and it turns into, like a type of porridge basically, and they call that dal. Or dal is actually just a word that refers to like different legumes that turn into like porridge basically.
Right, porridge. So khichdi though, is it savory, I would assume?
It's savory, yeah. It's savory. This is a big like,
right.
So like we all know the Hare Krishnas. For those who don't know, they're just like this Hindu sect, we could say, that's really popular in the West especially.
Yep.
They like walk on the streets like singing, like worshiping Krishna, which is like one of the most important gods in Hinduism. And they're very big on khichdi because khichdi is like a food. It's very Ayurvedic, which is just like this Indian kind of like health consciousness philosophy.
Right.
So it's seen as like a health food. It's very easy to digest and
also vegetarian.
It's vegetarian, exactly. And it's easy to prepare in large portions. So when you're feeding tons of people like Hare Krishnas do.
Exactly. They can prepare like vats of it.
Which is what I do, right? So me,
nice.
I cook a lot and I cook for my partner and I do almost all the cooking. If you're listening to this, Julie, I know you're not, but if you are, I'm sorry. I know you get mad when I say this, but it's true. I cook almost all the food. And yeah, so it's nice to make khichdi because it's really tasty and it's very good for you. And you can make tons of it.
Right. Easy, one prepare, many meals.
Yeah. But I had that, and I had a little bit of like cabbage curry as well.
Cool. So, so we were just discussing what aspects of food you enjoy the most. And I think our conclusion was about everything.
Yeah, I love everything about it. I love ingredients. You see, for me, food, it's not just about like tastiness in my mouth.
Yeah, of course.
It's about like an integrated understanding of like human society.
Yes.
Through this very sensual experience, which is like food, right? And consuming food. Food is like really important socially. It's very important economically. It has a central role in the development of human history.
Of course. The food is the whole point.
Exactly. In many ways, yes. So I love interacting with it in that way. I interact with it on like an intellectual level as well as on a physical level through eating. And then I also love cooking, right? I love to cook, which is something that I guess most people my age don't really do.
Yeah, it's becoming far and far less of a skill that people these days are using. So.
Yeah, it's strange because it always feels like there's maybe like a resurgence happening, but it always seems to be that people are actually cooking less, or when they say they're cooking, they're using like more prepared foods.
Exactly.
It's like semi-cooking.
Semi-cooking, right, right. So let's start from the very beginning. Ingredients. We living in Taipei, Taiwan, sometimes we have problems sourcing certain ingredients, especially for food that tends to be less mainstream.
Sure, okay. Which is what I mostly cook Indian food.
Right. So tell us, ingredients-wise, anything interesting about sourcing? Where do you find all of your ingredients?
Great. Indian food, it's like you have the spices and then you have like the fresh ingredients that you use.
Right.
Spices, there is a chain of very good Indian like spice stores in Taipei called Trinity. They have basically everything that you need.
Which is Indian anything.
Anything. They have all of the spices you can imagine, basically. I mean, I know in India, shout out to all our South Asian listeners.
Yeah.
We love you all.
Love you.
I know you have things like regional ingredients that are very For example, I've been looking for this spice that's only found in like Bengal.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm making like I like to use like Bengali recipes for like split peas, and there's this type of spice that they use, which is like it's related to ajwain, which is Indian like caraway seed.
Okay.
But
What
it's
is it
not
called?
this.
What is it called?
I can't remember its name actually right now. Sorry.
Sure.
It's in Bengali, right?
Right.
But I know it's related to ajwain, but it's not the same. But you can't find that here. That's
No.
something you can only find in like Bengals, supposedly.
Right. You would need to go there and purchase that spice in quantity and bring it back.
I something like that, right? I mean, even like in most parts of India, like you don't find it readily available, this spice. So, but like the common spices you can find there. So I buy most of them there, but not all of them. The truth is actually a lot of spices that you use in Indian cooking can be found at Chinese medicine shops.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. The resource that nobody really uses.
Which I always tell people to do because the prices are much cheaper. Trinity, love you, Trinity. If the owners are listening to this, I love you. Please do an event with RTI.
Right.
But it is kind of expensive or more expensive than average. But the Chinese medicine shop is very cheap. And so this is, for me, it's like I love the sourcing. I love finding places just when I'm walking down the street randomly. And I just find this place and I'm like, oh, wow, they have cloves and bay leaf. And
Right.
it's really
Me
cheap.
too. It's like, oh my goodness, I'm getting a deal on.
Exactly. So I love doing that. And also shock. It's just like, why are you buying this? And I'm just like, I'm making Indian food. They're like, oh, you can
Really?
use this to make Indian food.
You know how to make Indian food?
Well, first, of course, they're shocked. Like
Right.
in Taiwan, when I go to the market, a lot of times they're just like, I don't know if you get this. Like, if I buy ingredients, they're like, do you know how to make this?
Oh no, I get that all the time.
I'm just like,
get
why
that.
would I be buying it if I don't know how to make it?
Yeah, one of the, especially around the holidays, I make pie, specifically like apple pie.
Sure.
And so when I make apple pie, I actually don't get only like one kind of apple. I get a bunch of different kinds
Oh,
because
sweet.
they have a lot of variants when it comes to tart versus sweet and then crispy versus
Right, texture.
texture.
Yeah.
So if you vary up the types of apples you have in the pie, it gives it a very interesting depth, right?
Yeah.
So I'm buying all the ingredients for pie, including a massive ton of butter, because you can't. It's very unhealthy, but you can't have pie crust without a decent amount of butter.
Yeah, even the filling needs some butter.
Yes, it does. So I go up to the counter, and the ladies are always asking. The clerk is always asking me, "Wait, what are you making?" And I'm like, "Apple pie," and they're like, "Oh my god, you know how to make that?"
What I always get is like, this happened to me just the other day. I was buying sweet potato leaves, very common ingredient in
Yeah.
Taiwan.
For stir fry or
No,
like
yeah,
blanching.
well, that is what people use it for here. But
Yep.
I like to stew it Indian style with spices, and it becomes a type of sog. It becomes really soft. It's really, really good for that. Another thing I love doing here is I love to take Taiwanese ingredients and like make them into Indian sabzis.
Exactly. Use different method of cooking.
Exactly. Or like use an ingredient that in India doesn't exist. They don't really eat sweet potato leaves there, and like finding a way to utilize it with their cooking method. So they were asking me just like, do you know how to make this, like sweet potato leaves? They're like, you want to stir fry it, you know?
Right.
I was like, yeah, I know. I do that too sometimes, but I'm actually going to make it Indian style. They're like, what do you mean?
What do you mean Indian style?
And then I explained it to them for like 2 minutes. I was like, well, I'm going to start with like this spice. I'm going to temper the oil, and then I'll put in my other stuff. Like I explained to them all the steps.
Oh, so you actually will describe exactly what you're going to do with it.
Yeah. Well, they were curious, so I told them, I wanted them to understand that I'm serious. I'm very serious about this. Yeah.
Okay. So have you ever though, when you go and travel, generally speaking, do you do you also go to like spice markets or just open air
of course.
markets?
I
there?
love going to traditional markets everywhere.
Everywhere. Markets are so much fun, right?
I love markets. It's you can learn a lot about a place from going to the market and seeing what
Absolutely.
people are buying, who is buying, and who is buying what.
Right. I mean, whenever I've gone back to, so I make a lot of Korean food.
Sure.
And even though Korean food has seen quite a rise in popularity in Taiwan, the vast majority of restaurants here don't prepare it very authentically.
Sure. What are they missing in general?
Seasoning.
It's not spicy enough.
It's not spicy enough. It's
Yeah.
not salty enough. See, Korean food is actually quite punchy.
Yeah.
Like tart is very tart and salty is very salty and spicy is very spicy, right? But people in Taiwan, generally, I feel people are they tend not to like strong seasoned food.
I could go on a long tangent about this, but I don't want to. But yes,
yes, it's a thing here.
They don't like it when things taste too good.
So,
They don't like anything too good, you know?
Right.
Life is too good, bad. That's bad.
So too much enjoyment or something?
Yeah, you don't want to enjoy too much.
You can't
no.
enjoy it. So I will actually go to, see family in South Korea, and part of my shopping is just to buy a ton of ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
I would have a bag, 2 bags, heavy with ingredients and other.
What do you buy? Dried chilies?
Dried chilies,
Yeah.
gochujang.
Of course. You
Right?
can buy that here, though. You can buy Korean
Yes, you
gochujang.
can.
How is it different?
You actually won't really know unless you like line them up side by side, which my mother has done.
Cool.
So she's like she's also, I learned everything I know from her. But yeah, hardcore must have elitist, I guess, when it comes to ingredients for her.
Well, no, I'm sure there you can find like a variety and like a level of craft, in
Absolutely.
gochujang that you can't find here.
Stuff like gochujang or the soybean one, doenjang.
Also amazing.
Yes,
Yeah.
amazing stuff. But yes, I'd come back with fish oil, not fish oil, fish
Gonna
sauce,
get your
fish
omega
sauce.
3s.
Fish sauce, because
Korean fish sauce.
Korean fish sauce is different than the fish sauce that you see, which normally used in like Vietnamese or other Southeast Asian.
Oh, really?
cuisine. Yeah.
How is it different?
It tastes different. I can't describe it. I actually have to have you try it, like side by side.
Wow, I've had a lot of Korean food, including in Korea. Actually, when I was in Korea, I was vegan, so I wasn't having fish sauce.
Yeah,
but yeah,
That's
I'd
true.
be
You
very-
cannot have the can you have the fish sauce now?
I eat seafood now.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So now I eat fish sauce.
Cool. The depth, the saltiness, the savoriness is a little bit different than the Southeast Asian.
Oh, that's
And
very cool.
Fish sauce is used in surprising number of dishes in Korean food.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So stuff like that. I would arrive back with suitcases full of things that I will eat later.
Yeah. In Taiwan, do they have like a quintessential ingredient like gochujang in the food here?
In Taiwanese food?
In
And we're,
Taiwanese
of
food?
course, not talking about like soy sauce.
I guess soy sauce is the one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're doing here. The soy sauce, quintessential Taiwanese ingredient?
I think that's the seasoning.
That's the thing.
Yeah, that's the key seasoning.
Right. You tend to find soy sauce in just about everything, especially when they braise.
Anything braised,
anything braised, which is big here.
In fact, they don't even the word lu means to be braised in soy sauce. Like
In it.
I don't know how to describe things because I like to make braised things. I mean, Indian food is kind of braised.
Yeah.
It's stewed. And I try to describe it. I'm like, but there's no soy sauce.
I'm getting so hungry talking about this. Okay.
Yeah.
So you move from ingredients. So cooking.
I love, let me tell you this. I got into Indian cooking actually many years ago, but I really started getting into it about after I came to Taiwan because I became friends with a guy who was also super into it.
Oh, cool.
And I don't know, once we started becoming friends and once we learned that we were both really into making Indian food, that's when we became like really good friends.
Bonding over the hobby.
Like we would just hang out
and cook.
Yeah, exactly. Most young people, they hang out. I don't know. They go KTV. Maybe they'll go to a restaurant. I don't know. We would go to each other's houses. We would watch like Indian cooking videos on YouTube.
That's awesome.
Like with or without subtitles. Like really, we were watching cooking videos like in Hindi, like no subtitles.
Wow, hardcore.
Like no descriptions. Just like, what do you think that is? Like, do you think it's tomato? Do you think she put something else in it? I don't know. And we would just watch it and then we would do it, right?
Right.
Actually, we would spend the whole week. Sometimes like we'd be watching videos on our own and like send it to each other. Just like, you know how
Kinda
people
like
send memes to
memes.
each other?
Yeah, I send
but
memes
no,
to
we were
my
sending
friend- no.
Indian like food videos.
Right.
And
Well,
then we'd be like,
that's
yo, we got to do this weekend for sure. And yeah,
It's rare, first of all, to connect with somebody on that level in something like a hobby that you really
Super
know
random.
and love. Super random. And it's so awesome when that happens.
yeah.
So the two of you were learning together.
Yeah, well, we both had a base, right? As in I was self-taught, right? And he had been taught by like a really good friend of his from university who was from Pakistan. And so he had like learned a lot already from this friend.
That's cool.
But so we started kind of with a base. We understood because Indian food is just like, I mean, to generalize it, if you can, once you learn the process, it becomes easy.
Right.
Because what it is just oil, hot oil, temper spices, cook aromatics, add powdered spices, like add tomato if you're adding it, and then like the other ingredient and like cook it, right?
And then stew.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, or not. Sometimes
not,
you
right.
want to cook it like less time, right? If you want, and also sometimes you know maybe you'll temper the oil like at the end and just add it on top,
Ah,
like.
right.
But basically, that's what
That's
the
Indian
food is. Yeah, that's like at the base of everything. It's that process. So once you learn that, it becomes very easy because you're just basically switching out different spices or different oils and different ingredients.
I do think that's true for most cultures' food. Once you learn their basic steps, the vast majority of food can be interchanged, right?
Yeah.
The ingredients can be interchanged to make
Yeah.
different dishes.
Yeah.
Besides Indian cooking, do you do any other cooking?
I do. I cook some. I like to cook West Asian / Middle Eastern food because I was born in Israel, and that food is like, for me, it's the goated
Home
food.
style. Oh,
It's
yeah.
just it's the goated food. Like, for me, it always hits the spot. It's perfect food in my opinion. I mean, Indian food is like perfect food, but what it's missing really that Middle Eastern food has, Arab food, I guess I could say, is like it's missing freshness. It doesn't have enough raw food in
That's
it.
actually true.
Yeah,
Now that I
that's the
think about
one
it,
thing
right.
it's really missing. Even Chinese food is better about this because like you have all the like liangban preparations, like
That's
cold
true,
tossed
where
dishes.
Yeah, where food is very fresh, blanched
Yeah.
for just a second. Or
Exactly.
something like that, right?
Yeah, or even
Or
raw,
even not,
right?
raw.
Even raw,
Cucumber, right, exactly.
And Indian food doesn't really have that. Like the only kind of raw preparations you have is like garnish, so like onion and raw onion and chili garnish, things like that. I love Indian food, but it is missing that freshness, and so they have that kind of element in Middle Eastern food. So I just love like salads and like dips and flatbreads and things like that. Student
Yes.
foods. Like that's actually how I got my my partner to like. I think that's how I got her basically.
Nice.
I got her, as my parents would say, la conquisté. Like I conquered her. It's because the second day, like I invited her to my house and I made her
You
food.
made her food. Oh,
and she
that's so
she was crazy
romantic.
over it. Yeah. I made her very simple food too.
Okay.
I made her fool, which is like Middle Eastern fava bean
Okay.
dip, right? Which is one of my favorites. Amazing dish. And I just made like some salads and like some roasted vegetables with spices, and then I made like pita breads. I made it
That's
myself.
actually,
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And
Was Julie also vegetarian at the time?
no, and she's still not,
Oh.
and she never will be. But even like it doesn't matter. The truth is like
I do think that's
people,
plenty of flavor, right? That's
I think
plenty
meat
of
eaters,
flavor.
meat eaters, like they appreciate good vegetarian and vegan food.
That's true. I do
don't,
myself.
I think it's kind of I actually come from an Argentinian family, and it's like I had a family friend who became vegetarian. And his family would not stop ragging on him about it. Be like, "What do you eat? What do you eat? What do you eat?" And it's just like that kind of like closed-mindedness is so lame because like there's so many amazing things you can eat that don't have any animal product in it.
Correct.
Yeah, so she loved that meal, and it was a simple meal, just like fool, like.
And then hook, line, and sinker.
And yeah, then she was just like, this boy's serious.
Man. Well, okay. After food has been cooked, obviously, there's places to eat, right? So are there restaurants in Taipei that you would highly recommend that
Of
actually
course,
meet your
there's-
standards? Yeah.
Well, not Indian food. I don't eat any Indian food in
Really?
Taipei, except for there are a couple like tandoori roti roll stands around Taipei now.
Yeah.
They're actually becoming bigger around Taiwan. I don't
Good.
know.
I'm so happy about that.
And there's one of them close to Thai Power Building. This guy's Pakistani. He's really, really, really nice guy. The tandoori restaurant down there. That's the only one I eat. No, because they're too expensive. That's why I'm cooking it myself.
yeah, that's
because
actually true.
I'm saving tons of
Indian
money
food
making
here
my friend,
is very
myself.
expensive, right?
Yeah.
I think you can't get away from 500, 600 a head at minimum.
That's what I'm saying. And it's like for 600, I can make like I can make like 2 whole Indian meals. And each of those meals has like 6 portions, basically.
Right, exactly.
So it doesn't make any sense for me. Like I just rather cook it myself because I enjoy making it anyways, right? But I think there are a lot of great restaurants in Taipei. I think Taiwanese food is delicious. I think actually Taipei is a low-key like vegan paradise. I think like I have no idea why it doesn't have more attention internationally for that because the vegetarian restaurants here are amazing.
Yes, actually.
They're amazing.
There's quite, because of, I think, the Buddhist...
Yeah, because a lot of people are vegetarian here. Yeah.
The Buddhist community encourages a lot of that, a lot of restaurants to open up vegetarian.
Yeah, and with a lot of strict like restrictions, but I think because of that, you do have an amazing variety of vegetarian food, And I think there's tons of amazing, like for example, something that I just don't know why isn't more international attention about it is like rucha, like stir-fried restaurants,
places.
right?
They're cheap and they're delicious.
They're amazing. Some of them are really, really good, and they're very inexpensive, and they're a nice place to hang out and
have a beer with your friends.
All different kinds of people go there too. I think for me, it's like one of the most quintessential Taiwanese like dining experiences. And it's very strange that you just don't see more attention about it, though anyone who lives in Taiwan, especially foreigners, they all know about it.
Yeah.
So I definitely think Taiwan is an amazing place to eat. I think there's a lot of really, really great places. But at the end of the day, I love cooking.
Yes.
I love to stand.
Stand.
For
Always.
standing. For 2 hours chopping and then sauteing and tasting and adjusting. I love it. I love it.
I love the idea that when you cook, you're also putting love into the dishes that you're making, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in, Itamar.
Yeah, no, thank you. Actually, what you just said, Julie says the same. I'm always like, why do you like my food and not any other food? And she's just like, because of your love. Your love is in it.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
Julie, listen to this. I hope you listen to this episode.
Yeah.
Thank you, Itamar.
Thank you.
All right. You guys, write us. Tell us, what do you like cooking? Do you have any challenges when it comes to sourcing ingredients? Let us know. What's your cup of tea? What tickles your fancy or what floats your boat? Join us as we share passions from people in Taiwan and around the world on Geek Out. I'm your host, Michelle. See you next time.